So let's start with who you play in Among Us. We know that you are either a crewmate or an imposter. Now the crewmates are officially little astronauts that are tasked with doing things on their ship to keep it flowing. Their ship is known as the Skeld, and they want to keep it running so they can make it back home. Home being Mira HQ, which is another map in the game. It would seem that all of these little space dudes work for Mira, an organization that has very advanced technology for deep space travel, and our space dudes are scientists tasked with exploring the deep dark reaches of the galaxy, maybe even further. It's unknown how advanced their technology is, but I'm going to guess that because most of the manual labor tasks need to be performed by individuals and it isn't completely automated by AI, that we're staying within our own galaxy. But are these astronauts human? From the official website we know that the astronauts are trying to return to civilization, but it's never clarified if civilization is Earth or an alien planet. Now, there are a lot of things that would make me suspect that our little interstellar dudes are human. While completing tasks on the ship, you have to keep the oxygen working, so these dudes need oxygen to breathe. They have blood types just like humans. They even have vending machines just like us. I mean, we haven't made contact with alien races publicly yet. I don't know if vending machines are a universal standard. But there is one key thing that sets these crewmates apart from a regular person: their size. They clock in at only 3 feet 6 inches tall and 92 pounds. That is a very small person, or even a child. So my theory on this is that because space travel takes so long, the people who get sent into space are actually children. This way they don't have to waste their entire lives on a spaceship, and they have a much lower chance of dying from an age-related illness. Like if you're 45 and you spend 20 years on an expedition in space, you might not make it back. I have 2 theories on why shooting kids into space would be ethical. In the future where Among Us takes place, they might have found a way to jumpstart the brain to get people to achieve an adult level of intelligence before they are actually in an adult body. Or they create clones and transfer the consciousness of an older person into a younger clone shell. That way you can have the body of someone young and healthy and put in the mind of a wise sage. That would be the ideal situation. I'm leaning to more the second option because I think that would be something people would actually want in the future, to keep themselves alive in a young body with the mind of their old self. This would also help with spacing. If you could build smaller spaceships and still fit everyone on board, then you could save on supplies and still get the same amount of research done. If this theory is correct, I would also say that they stunt the growth of these juvenile clones so they don't outgrow their surroundings while they're out in space. It would be hard to get a bunch of new clothes and a new bed while you're floating around in the deep dark void. Now on to the imposters. The imposters are parasitic shapeshifters that take the form of crewmates and try to take them out one by one until there's only them and another crewmate left. Now, how did they get on the ship? Well, the common thought is that the crew on the Skeld landed on an alien planet and the imposter took out one of the crew members, took their place, and then snuck on board. But there is no evidence that the Skeld actually landed on an alien planet before making contact with the imposter. The Skeld is in space, and for both of the other maps, Mira HQ and Polis, they mention imposters. For Mira HQ they say that there shouldn't be as many imposters there, and for Polis they say that the planet should be untouched by imposters, meaning that you and your crew knew about the imposters before venturing there from the original expedition where they got infected. Therefore, they couldn't have come from either of these locations, but were brought back on the Skeld, which might have never touched down on an alien planet. So the imposters might be much more powerful than just a shapeshifter. The imposters could have boarded the ship while they were still in space. Now, how could this have happened? Well, the people on board the Skeld could have brought on an asteroid or some other substance from the vacuum of space to examine it, and the parasite was alive and then infected the first person to come in contact with it. But what if, like most parasites, the imposter works by sending out a large quantity of itself to infect an area, like cholera, which is a bacteria. It will infect a water source to spread as far as possible, and then when people drink the water, they are infected. What if the imposter parasite sends out spores into space that can work their way through solid material, like a ship, or if someone was out doing a spacewalk, it could get in through your suit. This could mean that the parasite could survive in the vacuum of space. But how do they work their way through solid material? Well, there's an old Among Us question, that is, how come the imposter can vent and no one else can? Some say it's because they are shapeshifters and they can squeeze through the vents, which makes sense. But transportation through vents is instantaneous. There's also been theories that the imposter can make small, short distance portals that it can use to teleport through, and it's only using the vents for cover so the cameras can't see them. That's why travel is instantaneous. This could be how the imposter got onto the ship in the first place. These small spores might be able to make short distance portals as well that might not be able to make it through the ship, but like I said before, could make it through your spacesuit during a spacewalk. Also, as the imposter, you are fine with turning off the oxygen, so you clearly don't need it to live, and that adds to my theory that the imposter can survive in the vacuum of space. And if we're really breaking things down, what is Among Us based off of? Now, there hasn't been an official statement from Eris Loris, the developers of the game, but it's a pretty common consensus that the game is based off the 1980s hit The Thing. There's a lot of movies that involve aliens taking a human form and then killing off a bunch of people, but The Thing really captures all the elements of Among Us. You have someone who is infected and everyone knows, but no one knows who it is. You have people debating on who it could be and turning on each other. You have a shape-shifting parasite that is able to blend in and assimilate with everyone there as it tries to take them out one by one. And finally, you have one of the kill animations that has a big toothy mouth open up. That looks very similar to this. So I think it's safe to say that this movie was an inspiration for the game. Now, where do they find the parasite in The Thing? Well, it's frozen in ice, and they think it could have been dormant there for 100,000 years. So if these two monsters are the same or similar, they could survive in harsh conditions with no air, food, or resources for a possibly infinite amount of time, which adds to my theory of the imposter being able to survive in space and spread like spores throughout the galaxy. This imposter could be one of the most powerful creatures in existence, looking to assimilate everyone back into their bubble. I mean, if we go back into the descriptions of the map, both Mira HQ and Polis are supposed to be free of the parasite, but they're already there. Now, this could be the fault of the crewmates. Maybe they're infected and bringing it around to all these spaces, but I don't think that's the case at all. If we start to piece all these things together, we have something that seems much darker. I think Mira has gone on the deepest expedition ever and come in contact with this parasite that isn't an isolated case, but has infected a better part of the galaxy. They just live so far away from it, they never had any word of this creature before. The reason the crewmates are so small is because the consciousness of an older astronaut was transferred into people in a fetal state, and then they were sent out into space. They wouldn't even be fully functioning and emerge from their tubes until they were a few years into the trip, and they wouldn't even be the size they are in the game until 5 to 10 years into the trip. They went so deep into space that they found a new life form that is the dominant life form in that part of the galaxy and is going to absorb them just like it absorbs everything else. When you return to Mira HQ, it's not on Earth, but it's an outpost that was built in deep space to perform this deep expedition, and now you have brought it back with you, or it was there before you even knew it. The imposter is a massive spore-like hive mind similar to the disease in The Last of Us, but it can survive in space, it's much smarter, and there's no winning the game. It's already made it back with you, and it's too late. So Polis seems to be a far-off planet that's within telescopic distance of Mira HQ. The astronauts that are possibly human people things that you play have built a base there. The planet is a very hostile place before we even bring in the fact that there's an alien parasite that's constantly trying to murder you as you scamper around and try and find out who the killer is. Polis seems to be a nearly uninhabitable planet just from the frozen temperatures that you will be exposed to on the planet's surface, and not to mention there's a massive hole in the planet that exposes a molten core that is constantly pumping out fresh hot lava. I mean, the place kinda needs to make up its mind. Are you trying to be Hawaii? You're trying to be Antarctica. Am I supposed to bring board shorts and a new Tommy Bahama t-shirt? Or do I need to get a parka and some waterproof thermal Blundstones? And if you don't believe me and think that this would be a great place to settle down, let me tell you that these little spacemen don't even think so, because there's no cafeteria on the planet, because it's probably not even comfortable enough to stop and eat on. But there could be another reason why there's no cafeteria on this mysterious planet, but I will get to that later on in the video. Now, why have our space cadets traveled down to this planet? Well, there are a few different theories about this. If you look through the telescope on Polis back at Mira HQ, you will see that the planet is kind of bunk. It's all brown and gray, and it looks like it's surrounded by some sort of smog. You don't want your home planet to have a giant layer of smog around it like it's the candy layer around a Tootsie Pop, and that joke is a little too real because our planet is dying and I gotta stay focused. So some people think that the expedition to Polis could have been for terraforming purposes. They went there, it was too cold, but still inhabitable. They just needed to spruce the place up a little bit, so they cut a massive hole into the middle of the planet and started digging. They got to that hot, gooey center, and that was the material they needed to start to take control of the planet. There's a second theory that even though Mira is covered in a gross gas, they aren't quick to leave. They wear the spacesuits all the time so they can survive in that environment, and that's just normal for them. That's like us wearing clothes. The reason that they came to Polis is because a massive asteroid came down and smashed into the shell of the planet. The asteroid is what created the massive hole that makes the lava pop out and spill all over the surface of the planet. It didn't really spill anywhere, but you guys get what I'm getting at. But the asteroid was full of some good old-fashioned valuables. We don't know exactly what could have been the motivation to come to this planet, but it could have been purely profit. The space dudes wanted to come there and make money off of the rare metals that were still intact in the asteroid. They wanted to mine the thing. When the crewmates got there, they started digging and they found the parasites, which later become the imposter. There are some hints towards that when you get into the specimen room. There are what seems to be parasitic organisms that are floating in some sort of fluid. These could be samples that the spacemen have been collecting to study, and during some of their investigations, someone got infected. Well, that is one idea, but there's also the idea that during whatever mission it was where the skeleton got infected, the imposters took over the ship. They then took it back to Polis. They reported back to the main base on Mira that they founded a new planet to terraform, and they started to do so. They started building bases and were now inviting people from Mira to Polis to help them build it, but it was really a trap. In this scenario, Polis is the homeworld of the imposter, and they knew that if they built the base there, they could convince the people from Mira to start to come there in droves. So every time someone lands there, they are coming right into a trap. All the research that's being done on the parasites in the specimen room is being performed by other imposters because they want to make their race stronger. This is why there's no cafeteria. There is no need for people to sit and eat. The people coming there are the food. The imposters wouldn't even think to build a cafeteria because it's not something they would ever use. A simple oversight because they are an alien race and they didn't know any better. But there is something about this that seems a little off. I mean, we have the idea that the imposters are the bad guy. Well, it's because it seems like they are killing everyone and they want to disable the ship and destroy everything around them. So it is a little bit justified. That seems like criminal behavior if you ask me. But let's look at this a little differently. What if the whole thing starts on Mira? We know that the planet is covered in smog, so let's say that the smog is some sort of toxic gas and the planet is about to die. That's why the crewmates always wear spacesuits. We have already covered this. They need to find a new place to live, and they find Polis. This seems like it would be the perfect new homeworld. The only problem is there is a parasite on it that seems to be quite dangerous. So the space dudes go to Polis, and the first thing they do is attack. They blow a hole in the side of the planet, thinking that the heat escaping from the Earth's core will wipe out the parasites because of the massive change in environment. And for the most part, it does. It creates enough room for the space dudes to come in and start experimenting on the imposter parasites. They build a whole base there, and in the specimen room they host evil experiments on what they assume is a brainless parasite, but it's actually the native creature that is the dominant race on the planet. Now, normally these parasites don't take over hosts unless they need to for survival or they're under attack. One brave parasite manages to take over the body of one of these spacemen and then goes on a selfless mission to try and stop the skeleton from returning to its homeworld to get more troops to come back and continue to terraform the homeworld to the point where they can't live on it anymore. So he gets on board and starts to sabotage the ship, but he gets caught. He then has to kill the person who saw him destroying the ship so they could stop them from telling everyone that they were actually an imposter. Then the investigation ensues. They throw out the wrong guy and the imposter has to lay low. They fix the ship and he makes it all the way back to Mira. Because remember, if all the tasks get done but the imposter doesn't get thrown out, you still win the game. So now this guy is on a deadly mission to save his home planet from ensuing destruction, and he has failed. They got back and they're going to gear up with a full army to come and take over Polis. But he refuses to quit. He can't let every last person he knows die. So he continues to grind away and try and stop these monsters from coming back to his homeworld, and he starts infecting people on Mira and fighting back against these evil aliens. While back on his homeworld, the parasites are doing the same thing. They are fighting the good fight to keep their planet free and theirs. What a flip that would be. The imposters are actually the good guy and they're trying to keep their planet safe. That would really change up how we look at the game. The question now is, how does the airship play into all of this?
Where do we even begin with this video? Okay, so there is actually just so much convincing evidence and Easter eggs that help to tie these two video games together, implying that they are in fact in the same universe. Let's start with something simple, some little things that happen to have greater implications. The diamond and the teleporter. When you get to empty the trash in the Skeld map, there are a variety of things that you can see being dumped through there. A few of these things tie us specifically to the world of Henry Stickmin, the diamond and the teleporter. The teleporter is an object that Henry frequently uses in attempts to pull off heists and great escapes. And yeah, it doesn't always work great, but sometimes it does. The diamond, on the other hand, is something we see him attempt to steal in the game. The question is, were these objects brought here, or are these just items that are Easter eggs left by game designers and developers who are fans or worked on the Henry Stickmin series? These are the questions. If we entertain the notion that this is no coincidence and more than just tribute items placed here to honor the Stickmin franchise, it is possible that Henry has been on the Skeld before. Or perhaps even that he is one of those among you. Perhaps he's a crewmate, or perhaps Henry himself is the imposter. We never get to see the faces beneath the suits, but it is possible that Henry is one of the characters being played on your ship, and you just don't know it yet. It would definitely be cool to see Henry go on some space adventures, but why would he ever throw away a diamond? And if you think that Skeld is the end of it, you'd be wrong. There are items littered everywhere, and even ones that appear more specific in terms of the Henry Stickmin franchise than the more generic diamond. In the cafeteria on the Mira HQ map, you may notice when performing the buy beverage task some familiar items and brands from the Henry Stickmin verse, which is pretty surprising, I gotta say. For one, there is the energy drink, which looks identical to the ones found in the Henry Stickmin games. So if these games are somehow not in the same universe, then they must have some kind of, I don't know, multiversal supplier for these energy drinks to be there in terms of it making sense in regards to lore. In escaping the prison, the drink gives you super speed and strength, but will eventually kill you. Because yeah, energy drinks, your heart, it's not so good. But maybe the race of beings we play as in Among Us have heartier hearts, or the imposter has made sure to have this drink stocked, hoping that it will kill the crew. We also have the Don Dew present in the vending machine, another drink from the world of Henry Stickmin. Do the Don Dew. Henry Stickmin Don Dew is one of the brands that appears, so it's interesting to see it also turn up in Among Us. Is this inner sloth once again trying to remind us, even on the Mira HQ map, that these two games actually take place in the same universe? The two games are like, it's like that picture of God, you know what I mean? And man, they're like touching down at each other. Among Us is like, I see you, Henry. Maybe vice versa, I don't know. Maybe vice versa since Henry came first, I believe, so yeah. Beyond small but very specific objects, we have also seen bigger connections in terms of characters and lore even. Like this minor guard character shows up briefly in the Henry Stickmin games. This character only plays a minor role in the Henry Stickmin game Fleeing the Complex. You may recognize him as one of the guards at the wall who you can see momentarily chasing after others during the massive riot scene which is started by Henry and his ally Ellie. So, how did a guard get involved in Among Us? We don't know any guards that appear in the game, do we? When have we seen any appear or been hinted at? What are you talking about, Amanda? While this guard does not show up in Among Us specifically, he does have a strong tie to the world. In his bio, it's revealed that he won a contest of sorts and was able to name a planet after himself. His name? Polis Petrovic. The name of the map itself, named for the planet it happens to be on? Polis. What? In other words, Polis is the name of the planet that was named after after Polis Petrovic, the guard, because he won the contest. But what is the purpose of the planet? Is it related to the wall? Or was this contest unrelated to Polis's work and something completely different? Is Polis in charge of the planet? There are just so many questions I have. We can assume though, if Polis got to name the planet after himself, that he would at least be involved somewhat in whatever is happening there. Or perhaps the contest was a cover to allow the planet to be given a name unrelated to all the twisted experiments that are happening there. Basically giving those who really control it and the experiments a scapegoat of sorts. Or a misdirect for any authorities who might be investigating. Or is Polis simply more than he appears? Is he more than just a guard, and instead a ruler of an entire planet? In relation to the game design and why this happened, however, it should be noted that Polis is the map that was itself designed by Puffballs, so hence the connection from a real life logistics standpoint. It would make sense that Puffballs would want to place this Easter egg. So if, just let's say that these two games are set in the same universe, then in Among Us, where are the stickmen? Are there stickmen inside the Among Us suits? Or perhaps in the stickmen games, there are Among Us crew inside the body of the stick people? That seems less likely. Well, while we might not know about the Among Us crew and imposters in the games of Henry's stickmen, we do know about a specific kind of pet you can get in Among Us that ties the game even more to the world of Henry Stickmin. That is the Stick People Pet Pack. This gives you a small stick person buddy who follows you around while you do tasks on the ship. You're like walking around, they're there with you, you're like, ah, you're so cute. I'm gonna probably get killed soon, hopefully you're gonna be an orphan, I'm sorry. My poor pets. Every time I get killed, I'm like, not my pets! My pets have no one. They're just gonna wait forever or be dead, tragically. Hopefully pets are never getting killed. That'd be so sad. The shocking thing is that these stickmen are so small. Among Us characters are actually 3'6", so they're pretty small. They're like here, which means that their pets who are around half the size or less are even smaller. They're very tiny and probably about, like, I imagine this big. I don't know how to measure feet because I'm in Canada, but I'm pretty sure I'm close. And you may have noticed with the stickmen that you appear to get a little version of what appears to be Henry or Ellie minus their faces. Although it could be that their faces are just simply too small for us to see without, zooming in on them closer. I wonder if we could zoom in if we'd see their faces, which the game, doesn't allow us to do. But if anyone can zoom in, enhance or whatever people say. Enhancing is not a thing. Anyways, so the question is, if Henry and Ellie are these stick people, now how did they get here? And does this definitely confirm a strong enough connection for us to consider these games in the same world? Or do you still consider this is just an Easter egg, it's just a coincidence? Also, what does the size difference mean? Like, why are they so tiny in comparison? It could be that Henry and Ellie are both younger here and basically are the children of the Among Us crewmate that they're running around with. Perhaps Among Us is actually set in the past of Henry Stickmin, or perhaps Henry and Ellie are just being held captive and have been shrunk somehow, turned into the pets of these giants in terms of comparative size, and these menacing overlords. Either and also neither could be possible. Why? Why neither? Because ultimately Inner Sloth made both of these games, so any linking Easter eggs could be just a complete coincidence. Also, Henry Stickmin is known for its various Easter eggs to many games, which means that Inner Sloth could just be fans of, dropping Easter eggs everywhere. But it still makes us wonder. Some games that companies make are set in different worlds for sure. BioWare has Mass Effect and Dragon Age, which both seem quite separate. Although if you know a lot of things that maybe connect those, I'd love to hear about that. That seems crazy. Naughty Dog has Last of Us and Uncharted, which have a few references and linking Easter eggs that make you wonder, but nothing confirmed. And then you have games like Valve's Half-Life and Portal, which definitely appear to be in the same universe, although not quite in the exact same time period. When it comes to game links and Easter eggs in games made by the same company, it's always something up for interpretation.